republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Would you please let the record show that we are all present, other than Sean O'Neill, who is on vacation. Thank you. Now, motion is in order for the consent agenda approval. Has everyone had a chance to read through that?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I'll support that.
A motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Any deletions or additions? All right, seeing none, motion be in order.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to the announcements and communications.
I'd like to make an announcement. We settled the tax roll right on time with Oakland County, and our tax roll in a whole, which included community schools, colleges, intermediate schools, the fire department, library, police, and all those taxing entities, we collected $43 million this year. So I just thought that's kind of interesting, and I know Tina is putting two graphs on our website. If you're ever interested to see how that partitions out, it'll be on our website, but it's a big relief today. I'm happy. I'm very happy.
Thank you for that, Patty. Anyone else? Come on.
I
Tom.
have the Kensington Valley Community Awards nominees have been selected for 2019. And I would like to go over these. Tina Archer was selected as Citizen of the Year. Bob Martin, Lifetime Achievement Award. Paul Peters, Volunteer of the Year. He's a member of Lion Events Organization. Bigby Coffee, Business of the Year. Carissa Canfield is also a member of the owner of Bigby, is also a member of the Lion Events Organization. And there's Diane Buchanan is the Ambassador of the Year, and Heinen Engineering won the Phoenix Award, and they are both residents of Lyon Township. So out of 8 awards, Lyon is involved in 7 of them.
Oh, very good for our 2 years.
The banquet where they get the awards is on May 15th at Lakes of Novi. Starts at 11:30, and it's $22 a person for a ticket and a good lunch. Also, a little bit of trivia. In 1778, a New Orleans businessman, Oliver Pollock, he created the dollar symbol, which is still used today. Also, in 1976, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs started Apple Computer in the garage of Steve Jobs' house in Cupertino, California. We all know how that went. And that concludes announcements.
Pretty well, pretty good. Okay, I have one announcement, and I know we're going to talk a little more about it, but I'm excited. The water is on, it's running, and it is filtering out the best that the Lyon Township has ever gotten its entire time since the wells have been on, so I'm very proud of that. And we're going to talk more about that. But it is crystal clear. Everything is wonderful. I'm so proud of that, but I just want to put that out there. All right, any more? No, sir, anybody else? Okay. Moving on to call the public. It's the time when anyone can stand up to the microphone and talk about anything non-agenda related. Give your name and address for the record. Anyone? Come on up.
I don't know the procedure.
Just name and address for the
Okay.
record.
Sandy Loma, and I live in Carriage Club, 25366 Stanley Lane.
Okay.
Oh, we've lived there for 5 years, and it was our dream. I taught for 35 years, and we have some kind of a commercial eyesore behind us. I think you know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I called the fire department, many times, and the one time they came, it took 5 hours to put the fires out. And that was, about 4 or 5 years ago. Then I would come up here all the time, make reports, give pictures, and everything else. And I understand they lost the battle in court, and it's supposed to be on the way to cleanup. And we're not seeing it. I've seen rats from my deck. It's just been all kinds of things. Early Christmas morning, the mother, who's 83, came to my door, and I'm thinking it's some elderly lady, and I invited her in very nicely, and she said, "I'm your neighbor." And I said, "Oh, wonderful. Where did you move into?" Because I didn't notice anybody had moved in. "I live right behind you." And I said, "Oh, well, there's nobody really directly behind me." "Oh, yes, I live behind you." And she walked into my house and pointed over to Belladonna. I don't know what their names are. And so I thought, oh, great, now she's in my house. So I was very nice. I really didn't say much of anything to her. And she said, "I walk by your house every day, and the township told me you are the one that is calling on me every day." And she went off and just went on and on and on. And I'm like, oh, great. And I said, "No, it's not me. I have not called in a long time. My mother has been ill, and she finally died in November, and she's been in a facility. I'm not even around." And I didn't tell her that, but I said, "No, it's not me. I'm sorry." And I said, "But since you brought it up that you're here," I said, "it's really hard for us to look back there and see bags of garbage, tires, the big trailer types of things, and they're still going in and out to this day. I'm watching them hook up to the trucks, and I just want to cry. I just want to look outside and see a change, and I'm not seeing it.
It's coming.
I'm not a complainer. I'm not up here complaining, but I did make a report with the sheriff, and he was so nice. And I felt kind of foolish. I didn't know if it's something I should have done or not, but then I was scared. I thought, what if I'm alone, my husband's out of town, and her sons come to my house? I don't know them, and she said, "You know me now. You are to come to me. You come to my door. I don't want you going over to the township." And she was just right in my face telling me, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I just don't do well with conflict.
And it is being handled, and
Okay.
it is being handled aggressively, just so you know.
Okay.
Things will change soon.
Okay, because I haven't seen any signs.
Right. It has to go through a very long process, but it's
Okay.
almost there,
Okay.
very
Okay.
close.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, how's your water?
Pardon me?
How's your water?
Oh, I took a bath the other night and noticed a total difference. I'm like,
All right. All right.
wow.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you very much.
It's wonderful.
Thank you. All right. Any other? Wanna come up? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to reports. DDA?
Good evening, everyone. Okay, I have a couple of things to report on. I spent part of March, I had a couple of days up in Lansing. I think I mentioned to you that I would be attending that. Just want to give you an update. I had an opportunity to meet with some of our elected officials. Part of that was to promote all of the objectives that DDAs in particular deal with and some of the challenges that we deal with. But one of the things that I wanted to remind our elected officials in Lansing was that the Category A grant that we utilize here in the township to help improve our roads in our commercial and industrial districts, we were concerned that because there's such a push for Fix the Roads, that they might try to appropriate those funds. And just wanted to stress to them how important that grant is for Lyon Township in particular, especially since we're a community where we have job growth. So that was an important fact that we wanted to make. And then also I attended the Michigan Downtown Association's conference the following day, where we focused on Public Act 57 of 2018. And this is the new act that was that came into effect in December. It is specifically for TIF, or tax increment financing, DDAs. It has very specific requirements that we need to meet, especially in regards to transparency. So we're excited about our new website because it gives us the opportunity to provide much more information than we've been able to provide in the past. And then also, it requires 2 meetings every year. So we're going to have 2 public meetings. The first one will be on May 7th at 7 p.m., so an hour before the start of our DDA meeting. So I wanted to make that known to everyone. And then also, we're expecting the report sometime this week from the MEDC regarding the Wallbridge property as a site selection report. So looking forward to reviewing that. Our 2 major projects going on right now are Exotic Automation and Supply and Zeiss, and those are both moving along very nicely. I'm sure you've driven by and seen a lot of activity on those sites. Also, I wanted to give you an update on our DDA promotion committee. We've made a lot of strides with the promotion committee this year. We've added a few more members, and they're very excited to participate in a video campaign that we're going to start working on shortly. Also, we've come up with a marketing campaign that I'll hopefully share at our next meeting that involves the Huron Valley Trail. It's a way of getting people off the trail and into our downtown. And then also, we are working on another event for the year. Perhaps a New Year's Eve event. So we'll be able to share more information with that as we hash out the details. I did want to let everyone know that Novella's Pizza placed 12th out of 62 competitors in Vegas when they went to compete for the pizza competition. So we're really impressed with those outcomes. And then also, reminder that Kite Fest is on June 1st and 2nd this year. And the Lion Events Organization, which is an arm of the DDA, is also looking to add a new musical festival. Right now, the tentative date is August 17th. It would be in the park. It would also hopefully have a beer tent, so we'll be presenting that to the Township Board for approval in the next month or 2. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions, Tina? Anyone? All right, moving on to fire. Chief?
Good evening.
George?
Just wanted a couple items. Excuse me. The image has been popping up, but just we had our engine 1 dedication, our brand new engine, on March 16th, and we had a push-in ceremony, and it was very well attended by the firefighters and members of the public and the board as well. So again, thank you for the support there. The other. We also did get a new fire marshal vehicle right at that same time, so he's pretty happy. As far as staffing, we've had some, we continue to have staffing issues, and on the 22nd, we submitted a grant through FEMA that's called the SAFER Grant to look at staffing options and how we can improve coverage to the township. That process will probably take about 3 months, is what I've been hearing. And what I'd like to do in the meantime is to form a subcommittee, start engaging with board members, or if there's anyone else that you would like to see on that, but start having the conversations of what staffing will look like in Lyon Township, because I feel like we're at the point where we need to do something to provide round-the-clock coverage with the number of calls we're getting, the growth that we're seeing in the community. So that's something I would like to see as far
So
as.
you'd like a small committee put
Yeah.
together to kind of help you along that process, help?
Just so
Get you
that
to the
there's, everybody is engaged, and there's no rumors, that we just kind of discuss your concerns, my concerns, and then see what happens with the grant. I'm pretty confident, I shouldn't say that, but I am, that we may see something from the grant. And either way, I'd like to be prepared to move forward if that time comes, that we do get the grant. So, yeah,
Right.
3
Well,
members or
If you're
whatever you
looking for
decide.
you're looking for some volunteers for the board?
I would.
I think I'd like to be on that board just because I'm here every day and I'd like to keep informed on what's going on, so.
I'll be on it if you need somebody.
I would want to be on it too.
Okay. Well,
I could, if that's.
how many are you, well, we can only have 3.
Okay.
Yeah, we can only have 3.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any problems with that? With that, The three of us
Bob
here?
said he might want to be on
I'd be on it.
Well, you could be on that too, that would be good.
Okay. I will, someday this week, one of the days this week, just send you guys an email and we'll try and schedule meetings that'll be appropriate for everyone. And
Okay.
that's all I have.
We can get that started, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much. Moving on, Lieutenant Venus? What did we do wrong? You brought backup.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Some of you may know Brian,
Yes.
because
You do?
when he worked out here before, but for those of you that don't, this is Sergeant Brian Burwell. He's the new afternoon shift sergeant. He primarily works 6 at night till 2 in the morning. He's been on the department for 20 years, and he spent quite a few years out here in Lyons. So he was here when I first got assigned here, and then he got
Yes.
promoted, or he actually went to the net unit and then got promoted, and now he's back out.
Very nice.
Excellent.
Good
So
to
I just
have you.
wanted everybody to be aware we finally got him.
Yeah.
After the wait for the county commissioners, that's where the holdup was. Things are done a little different there, so it didn't get on the agenda until, was it February? Yeah. So
Oh, come up and see us.
So
He's
you're
out
already,
here.
you're already working now?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Les is now on day shift. He's a detective sergeant.
Oh, great.
So he's covering the detective bureau, taking cases, and he oversees the school officers.
Oh, no.
I was running into a problem, sometimes I can't, the school will call and I'll be busy doing something else and I can't attend to them, and I think it's important that we attend to their needs too. I mean, have somebody that can in case they need us, so.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
But with
that's
the
nice.
population growth, our detective bureau is getting busier, and it's hard for one guy to handle it. If he's gotta be in trial, or if he's at court, something happens, it's a big workload for one person, so Les is gonna pick up the slack and handle some things on days.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
Well,
Other than
welcome back home.
Yeah, it's nice you brought him up.
He was happy to be out here, and
Yes.
he's an area resident, so,
Oh, perfect.
yep,
All right.
so we're glad to have him,
Yes.
and it's working out
So are
good.
we.
So are we.
Yeah,
Great, thanks.
other than that, that's all I have.
All right,
unless
perfect.
anybody has any
Thanks,
questions.
Lieutenant. Thanks, Sergeant.
Right, thank you.
All right, moving on to Planning Commission.
All righty. We had 2 planning commission meetings in the month of March. The first one was Monday, March 11th, and we were quite busy with, I think, we had 4 public hearings. The first one was Feldman Auto Body Special Land Use and the Feldman Auto Body Site Plan. Both were tabled due to some modifications that they needed to work on. We had Hampton Manor of Lyon Township was in for a special land use. And they also had the site plan. And those also were tabled for some incompletions specifically because they didn't present a landscape plan. And under old business, we had Hans Water and Power Site Plan. That was approved with some minor conditions. And we also had Hans Water and Power Special Land Use, and that's recommended to the board, which is on tonight's board agenda. So that was that one. Then we had one more. It was Monday, March 25th. We only had one agenda item, and that was the Huron Valley Outfitter Site Plan Amendment. And we tabled that due to some parking issues, some discussion about their kitchen enlargement and their seats, and a few other minor things, so we're hoping to see them back again. So that concludes my report.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions? Patty? Okay. Moving on to ZBA, please.
The March 18th meeting was canceled.
Okay, makes it a quick report. Park Advisory, come on up, Robert. I didn't even see you over there.
Yeah, no, I just popped in. So we started our review of some park fees at neighboring and similar communities, working on compiling that. That'll be coming later. We reviewed and obviously voice our support for the trust fund grant application coming up here. And we discussed the Veterans Memorial concept, but the representative from the VFW was unavailable last month, so we had to reschedule the actual discussion with him, but the board is in favor of going ahead with that. Only other thing to point out would be that SEMCOG has put out the Southeast Michigan Parks and Recreation Plan for comment, so if anyone wants to take a look at that and make their comments.
Very good. Thanks, Robert. Any questions for Robert?
They've been in using the disc golf though.
Yeah.
They've
Good.
already started,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's good.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Moving on, DPW. Bob, got any good
Yep.
news for us?
I do, John. We started the library's roof on Thursday of last week. They put 2 days in. They were there today, and they said they will be finished tomorrow with probably cleanup on Wednesday. And we really picked a good company. I've been up on the roof. Bloom has done a wonderful job. They did move a gas pipe that they found that was buried under the roof. That work has been done, and the people that work at the library are overwhelmed. They're just very, very pleased. So with that said, that finishes my report. Thank you.
You know, I'll tell you that the library roof has been a big one for me because that's been a long time.
Oh,
I've been
yeah.
on this board a long time, and we've been pushing that every year I've been on this board.
I'm so glad we did this.
You know, I think it's a good thing. Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the public hearing here, and we're going to have, this is for the grant application for the 11-mile park development, Michigan National Resources Trust Fund grant. And I think, Brian, you were going to start this thing off, and I think we need to talk about it a little bit before we open this public hearing.
Yep.
So you want to take it?
Christine, Tina,
Oh, yes.
can you get me situated up there, please? Thank you. No,
Do you have the code?
no, I don't have the code. 5, 3. Thank you. Okay, I know by now the board is familiar with the proposed site plan for 11 Mile Park. It includes a parking lot, a couple multi-use fields, baseball field, potentially in the future a pavilion and amphitheater, some sports courts, and importantly a trail connection to 11 Mile, which would get us all the way over to the Huron Valley Trail. So without getting into too much of the details of the site plan, the Michigan Trust Fund grant is due midnight this evening. So we're cutting the application close, but what the trust fund grants are for are development projects related to recreational activities and facilities. For this park, we would be requesting $300,000 from the DNR, which is the maximum allowable through this grant funding process. We've prepared all of the documentation and it's all ready for submittal, but we need to talk about the cost of the park and what that means for our application to the DNR. CES has prepared a quote for construction of all of these park features, all of phase 1, as well as the cost for the approach to access the parking lot off of 11 Mile Road. The estimated cost of completion plus a bit of contingency for all of these items, which include this trail connection. It includes signalization across Milford Road, the driveway up to the parking lot, all of the land balancing and stormwater management features that would be on site, and some ADA parking and pathways. And finally, the play structure would come to approximately $2.2 million, give or take. What that means in terms of total township match that we would be responsible for paying for this project, we would be on the hook for approximately 1.9 million of that total 2.2, 86% of the total cost of phase 1 of this park. And you can see I've got some numbers broken down here in terms of we've got cash donations in hand from planned developments and from ITC in their donation to the park. That total nearly $350,000. We also have the donor foreplay equipment at $200,000, leaving a remaining general fund obligation under this structure for $1.4 million. Now, as you're aware, or you may be aware, the township budgeted $500,000 to get the project started, to begin taking access off of 11 Mile so we could get a parking lot, so then we could go ahead and install the play structure. And so that is where we sit today. So this public hearing is to take comments on the application to the DNR. And as part of this, if the township board wishes, you would approve a resolution to submit the grant this evening, and we would move forward. But what that means is you are obligating yourself to provide a match of 1.9573. And again, not all of that is out of the general fund, but that would be the township's obligation to receive that $300,000 grant.
Okay, so that being said, I look at the grant a little bit different than I did before. And the reason I look at it a little bit different is because it's only $300,000, okay? The grant has a lot of paperwork and attached audits and things to it for the $300,000, when the township is gonna be on the hook for 1.9 million. If we wanna do this, I suggest, and it's only my suggestion, and you guys can talk through this, I think we need to do this in phase this in a little bit. And if we're on the hook for $1.9 million, why would we go for a $300,000 grant that's gonna force our hand to do this in the next year? Why wouldn't we take this and take the monies, if we're gonna spend $1.9 million, why wouldn't we take that money, go into this thing in phases, and then next year reapply for the grant for the ball fields or the soccer fields or things like that? Let them play our hand when we're actually getting the money that we're matching. The match to me is way out of hand. 1.9 million to 300,000 to put them in the driver's seat. And therefore, I would suggest we don't put the grant in this year. I think we go ahead and move forward. If we're gonna put the 1.9 million in it, we do that. We build this park, we build the sidewalk to the park that we're talking about down 11 Mile, and then next year go for the grant. We're not gonna lose anything. See where I'm coming from? Now, you guys talk about that. If you wanna be tied to a grant for 300,000 and put the money in 1.9, is that the way you see it? Would the grant push our hand to get this thing in quickly?
It is. You, as you said, you're on the hook to get this done this year. So we'd have to figure out where in the budget you have the money, and whether or not you want to spend it that quickly. And the other piece to it is these grants are generally intended towards recreationally focused elements. One of the reasons that when the application went in 2017, the evaluators didn't like it because it appeared to them as a parking lot project, because that's such a significant portion of the budget. If you were to take care of that on your own ahead of time, then we come in with a grant application that is much more focused on just the recreational elements. and perhaps that's the strategy that we go forward with. But that being said, there are a lot of features that would come along with this that they would look kindly on today. You know, they'd look kindly on the connection across Milford Road, across the drains, getting people onto a site with accessible paths. So those sorts of things get us part of the way. But again, we're talking about a park, and the other recreational amenities, I think, are a huge part in how the DNR will evaluate the grant.
Anyone like to weigh in?
I have a question. If we choose not to go forward with a grant, is all of that work product leading up to this grant application lost? As far, or is it, you know, like, we can pretty much take what you've done so far and it still is?
It's still valid. The changes that would then get made are, we would update any of the narrative or project description or site description to match however much progress we've made before we apply again. So that's, in the big scheme of things, that's minuscule.
So a grant next year would just be kind of updating what you have completed so far?
Correct.
And if you had not been working on this application up until this point, all of that work would have had to be done next year?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Chris? you wanna weigh in?
Sure. Yeah, I'm kind of glad you brought that up, John. I agree with you. I'd like to kind of phase it in a little easier. The close to $2 million price tags, quite a bit off the top. I mean, if we can get at least, you know, looking at the estimate, if we can get into the park and have access to the donated play structure, at a bare minimum, I think that's a good first step. We apply for the grant next year. You know, later on the agenda, we're looking at the pathway link along 11 Mile, or filling in the gaps, and then maybe as part of the grant next year, you finish that pathway connection over the drain, and then start to add some of the additional amenities to the park.
So I think that's the reasonable way to go. Patty? You wanna weigh in at all?
Well, I agree with both John and Chris. It's a big budget item. We didn't budget an additional $900,000, which would mean we'd have to amend the budget for that. And since we still don't have all our answers yet at this time, we were not able to get a hold of the grant applicant, and that was a little disappointing, but they might be on vacation. So we still don't have that answer, so, and we're missing Sean. So I hate to obligate a board adding $900,000 without a full board. It's a big number to, you know, it's $1 million almost. So I wouldn't feel as comfortable. I mean, you know, you're talking about a couple other things that maybe not so expensive, but without a full board, I think it's a little daunting.
Do we know what the cost will be to satisfy whatever we need to get this $200,000?
Yes.
I think we're gonna be very close to that number you see right there. That's the parking lot, it's the entrance in.
Well, there's some
Yeah.
things like we could take off. We could take off the pedestrian crossing of Milford Road and the drain. That saves a cost on a box culvert, which you could delay, and include that with a grant application next year. That's a significant amount. You don't have to pave when you, could we go to
Yep.
we could just pave across the drain and keep the rest gravel for the initial year. Maybe just gravel a section of it. You'll have to pave your ADA spaces though, that's requirement. So there are some things we could do to build phase one as inexpensive as possible. The big cost is the access, and we discussed that quite a bit at the special board meeting in March.
So I guess without adding up all your numbers on your estimate, Leslie do? I mean, given that we've budgeted about, what was it, 500,000 at the initial kickoff, and then the donations that we've received in hand.
About 900, I think, is what that, right? 370 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that enough to get us phase one off the
I think it
ground?
is. I think it is. I think it's enough to get us across the 11 mile into the park, is it not?
I think so. I mean, for phase one thing that I would recommend though is mass grading the whole site. And you have to build your detention costs.
Mhm.
They're expensive. I mean, you have 15 acres of moving dirt around. So there might be some things on committee level maybe we can look at to get it into the budget number. I just don't know how far out we would be at this point, because we have some, that's a big part of it. To me, you can't, it'd be very difficult to come and mass grade once you have a play structure right in the middle of the site. You know, you really have to
Oh,
do it
no,
first.
you have to do that.
You know, so that's a big upfront cost that nobody sees or really appreciates, but it just has to be done. So there might be some things we can look at to try to get it as,
I think
I
that,
think it fits.
Go ahead.
Just if my very quick mental math works, I think it's just under 900.
yeah, it's right around 9.
Did that include the grading?
Yeah, there's a $110,000 line item for that.
So I think we'd have
Estimate.
enough to get us into it. You know? And I think if there's one thing that this board is on board, pardon the pun, we are really wanting to get this park built, right?
Mhm.
So we do have fund monies that we can use to make this happen for the, you know, so I think we're in good shape. I just think the grant would push our hand in a direction I don't think we need to be pushed right now, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think we do the grant next year. Because then I
agree.
think with the pedestrian component across Milford Road and into the park and then the fields, it makes for a strong application.
Do we just want to open a public hearing?
yeah, we
Yeah.
kind of jumped
Yes.
ahead.
Yeah, we did.
Well, no, we need to talk about that. We can go ahead and open the public hearing if we want to continue now. I just wanted to make everyone in the audience understand where we're coming from before we do that.
Okay.
Okay? So, all right, so that being said, it's 7:37. I'd like to open the public hearing on the grant application for the 11 Mile Park. And if anyone would like to come up and comment whatsoever, now's the time. Come on up. Come on up. That's what we're here for.
Follow-up question, rather, but,
You
Brian-
have his
sorry.
name and
Yes,
address, right?
yep.
Okay.
Robert Swain, hi. Brian, could you clarify just the timeline for, like, the way the grant application works, how long it takes for them to make an award decision, and then when the monies are actually ruled out, I guess?
Sure. So the date of application deadline is somewhat fluid, although they've kind of settled in on April 1st as a general rule. And then over the ensuing months, we would fill in any application deficiencies that the grant coordinators identified, missing agreements or clarifications on legal descriptions or anything like that. So we spend some time doing that prior to the actual DNR review, which happens in the fall of the year, and then they award grant monies in December, I believe. So we would be looking, really you're spending that in 2020 at this point, assuming we were to get a grant this year.
Okay, that was the part that I was wanting to make sure I was right about, because I'm thinking, it makes sense, I think, to, not spend that full lump in 19, but if you're thinking about doing it in 20, then doing the grant application in 19 actually, I think, lines up with that. So I get where you guys are going, I just want to take a pause and make sure that all of that timeline actually lines up with when the funds would be coming out of which year's budget.
Well, the next application will be due the same time, right?
It'll be due at the same
Right,
time.
roughly, but then
Next
you'd be
year at
looking
this
at
time.
those funds actually being applied in 2021,
Right.
which, if that's the way the board wants to go, obviously, that's fine. I just want
Well,
to point
I-
out that it's not so much next year as the application next year, which would then mean the year after for the
But I think we'd have
expenditure.
a better shot at getting the grant if we had some stuff in the ground. I mean.
Fair,
more or
totally,
less
yep,
in the rec-
yep. Not disagreeing with that, just want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
yeah, Right, yeah.
So.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, you have to
Jeez.
spend the money first.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they just don't send you $300,000.
Well, no, but-
So you have to spend the money first, and you have to report, you have to do reports to how much you spent
Right.
and how they, give you the money, so.
Okay.
It's you have to build it before
Right.
they pay you.
Okay, so yeah, re-wrapping up. Not opposed to the wait a year, just wanted to make sure that the
Thank
timeline
you.
was all.
Appreciate that. Okay, anyone else like to come up? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna close the public hearing at 7:41. Okay, moving on to the unfinished business. Artesian is not here tonight, but I think that we can talk about how great the water is. I don't know if you want to add anything, Bob, we
So
just,
I just want to say on March 18th, which was 2 weeks ago this very day at approximately 10:35 in the morning, back in the old days, you would take a sledgehammer and break a pipe or turn a valve. Now, it's touched onto a screen and a turn the plant. And what we've been getting ever since that day is iron-free water to our community of approximately 125 miles of water main, I believe, possibly more. And we look from numbers when you remove iron from water, and 0.3 is the limit when you start seeing water, and we've been depositing water into our water system at below 0.1. Numbers like 0.02, 0.01, which is just truly amazing. And I've probably talked to 24 people in the past 2 weeks, and I've had some people almost in tears as they said how happy they were that they were giving their kids baths and crystal clear water in the bathtub. I've gone through boxes of Kleenex. It's been really, really good, and everybody who's been involved in this should be very proud of what we've accomplished and where we're going, and it's only gonna get better with the finishing of the tower, which is gonna give us an additional 1 million gallons. The building of the plant at South Hill is well underway. Land is being cleared and pipes are being put in the ground, so a lot of great things are happening, and all I can say is Highland's doing a great job. Everyone is pushed together, and it's awesome. So thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any questions for Bob? Any questions about the plants, anything? And I do want to say that normally you only get complaints, but this has been really cool because a lot of people have been calling us and also say, thanks a lot, you know, and it's unusual, but we've been getting that, so it's pretty neat. Very, very neat. Okay, moving on. Consideration for the adoption, the conditional rezoning review for the Lion Senior Independent Living, formerly AP 1866, now AP 1906. And this is a second reading. Anybody want to go ahead and make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve AP-19-06, formerly AP-18-55, Pearl, conditional rezoning application review, as submitted.
Can we just add the ordinance number 04-19?
Okay, I'll add that.
Thank you.
I'll support that.
All right, we have a motion and a support. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to new business. This is the grant application. We've talked about this. Do we want to just, what do we want, how do we want to make this motion? Do we want to make this a motion for next year or just deny it this year? Make a motion to deny. What do you want to do?
Can you make a motion to reconsider for next year?
Reconsider for next year? Does that sound okay?
It does. Is that a motion?
Carol?
however you want to do it. I mean, you're really not taking any action on it tonight.
So do we need to vote on it?
No, I mean, not really, because nobody's prepared to make a motion to submit the grant application, correct? So you're just not gonna be moving forward on the agenda item at this time. I think the minutes will reflect that you're gonna consider it again next year.
Okay, so we'll just move on.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the Hans Water and Power Special Land Use AP 1903B. Brian, do you want to fire that one off?
I will, yes. Okay, the agenda item at hand this evening is a consideration of a special land use permit for Hans Power and Water. This is on the north side of Grand River between Clessy Court and South Hill Road, and your applicant is SI Capital. The proposal is a over 500,000 square foot building on a 30-acre parcel on the north side of Grand River. With proposed uses of generally assembly uses only. These are permitted uses in the I-1 zoning district. Really, the only reason this application is in front of you this evening is because a portion of the site, not including the building, falls within the Wellhead Protection Overlay District. And any industrial uses within that district come before the board for special land use approval. There was a public hearing on the special land use held by the Planning Commission on February 11th. There were some public inquiries about the products being produced, the amount of traffic that such an operation would produce, deliveries, how the approaches to the parking lot were going to be constructed, comments along those lines. The Planning Commission at that time postponed action in favor of a few modifications to the site plan and to the architectural plans, and reconsidered on March 11th of 2019, at which point in time the Planning Commission unanimously supported a motion to recommend approval of the special land use for this site, and they also approved a revised site plan subject to several conditions. You can see on the image in front of you here, the north is to the left. This demarcating line running almost parallel to Grand River is the Wellhead Overlay District. So within that area you have some parking lot, some driveway approach, but a lot of landscaping, a lot of open areas. The building falls outside of that protection district. There are several review standards applied to this particular project. The general land use standards as well as wellhead protection standards in the ordinance. And I'll briefly run through those. In terms of compatibility with adjacent uses, this stretch of Grand River is surrounded by light industrial uses to the east and west, with agriculture to the south, and I-96 to the north. We find that this site is compatible with those existing adjacent uses. We also find that it's compatible with the master plan and zoning ordinance. The subject site is designated as light industrial uses on the future land use map in the master plan. Public services along this stretch of Grand River are not expected to change as part of this application. There will be some additional traffic considerations, and as part of the recommendation for approval, there will be an acceleration and deceleration lane installed within the Grand River right-of-way at each of the two approaches to the parking lot. In terms of detrimental effects, the industrial activity statement states that there is not going to be any manufacturing of materials on the site. It is focused solely on assembly. We do note that there is a storage room for general chemicals, cleaning chemicals, that sort of thing, within the structure itself. The room where they are proposed to be stored is on the northwest corner of the building. So it is not stored within that wellhead protection district, and there's pretty substantial distance between the district and the storage of those chemicals. We, as part of the site plan approval, submission of those material safety data sheets will be required. Likely we won't get to those until building permit time. So for the time being, they are a condition that we will keep an eye on, assuming that you make a motion to approve tonight. In terms of isolation of existing uses, this particular use doesn't have any impact in creating single-family residential homes or non-residential development in small pockets. So it is supportive of the master plan in that regard. In terms of need, the site's location and demand for light industrial uses in the area indicates that there is a need for this type of use within the township. And we see that along a lot of these parcels getting developed here in the last few years. We don't find that the proposed use would have a detrimental impact in terms of economy on the community. It will bring additional jobs and tax base for the township. In terms of compatibility with the natural environment, the proposed use will make use of existing infrastructure and is not expected to introduce any significant environmental issues. There are a couple of standards specific to wellhead protection, and the first being the list of regulated substances. I noted before that chemicals will only be stored in that storage room, and so it will be limited to cleaning supplies and such. So we have no issues there. There are no existing contamination points noted on the plans or in the industrial activities statement or the MDEQ checklist, so no concerns there. And in terms of conditions of approval, the board may grant special land use approval only upon finding that the proposed use meets the following standards. A, that in no way during construction or thereafter shall a project adversely affect the quality or quantity of water that is available in the wellhead protection district. And B, that the project will be designed to avoid substantial disturbance to soils, topography, drainage, vegetation, and water-related natural characteristics on the site. Based on everything that we have, there is not significant grading that has to go on. We don't find anything detrimental that is proposed as part of this application. So based on the recommendation for special land use approval by the Planning Commission, we believe that the proposal complies with the zoning ordinance and subject to a few additional items that need to be provided, we would recommend approval. Those items being the management plan must meet the requirements of section 42.02A and be acceptable to the fire chief. That the applicant must note the chemicals and quantities that will be stored in the chemical storage room, and that the minor requirements of the site plan approval must be met.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. So basically, we're looking at just a special land use on the front part of this. It's in the wellhead protection plan, or the detention basin and the small portion of the parking lot. That's what we're here tonight to approve?
Correct.
Or not approve? Okay, Leslie, you have anything you want to add to that?
I would like to reference our May 26th letter that's in your packet. Essentially, the site is going to be a site to assemble parts. It's not what I would consider manufacturing. They're not making the actual part itself there. So I would recommend that the board, should you be inclined to approve the special land use, that it be approved with condition that should the applicant change their use to include manufacturing of goods or products at this location, they would be required to amend their special land use approval and be subject to the township's industrial pretreatment program.
Okay. The applicants are here, right? Are you here? Okay. Is there any questions you have for Brian or Leslie before we bring them up? Anybody?
I have a question about, there was an item that now I can't find. It was isolation of existing uses. And it calls out specifically that it shall not result in a small residential area being substantially surrounded by non-residential development. Is there any residential area around it at all?
Not that I
No.
No.
None.
think of.
Because I just found that wording
It's a
kind of
yeah.
surprising, because I thought, well, there isn't any or any residential area, so why was the statement as, well, yes, there was, but I just wanted to clarify that there is not any residential.
There's not, and you point out a good topic in that this is a general standard that we would apply to any use. So if there were residences sprinkled along this section of Grand River, it would warrant a closer look in terms of adding additional screening or making sure that there's substantial separation between those. But that not being the case here, we don't really have any concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody have any questions before that? Marky, you want to come on up and we'll see if anybody has any questions? Or if you want to give...
Hello, good evening. Conrad Shuey, 30100 Telegraph Road, Bingham Farms. I'm here representing the applicant, SI Capital. And as Brian and Leslie have covered most of the highlights of the project, if it's helpful, we have call it a video that kind of walks through the sort of the plans and then the views of the building. It's about 2.5 minutes long, just to kind of give you an overview of the project. And then at that point, I can answer any questions you might have. So, Tori? You can see the wellhead protection district. There's that blue line. So we worked quite extensively with the Planning Commission and staff on the landscaping and screening issues of the project, as you can see here from the Grand River side.
Yep, they really stepped up to the plate. We asked them to make
Have you
it a
seen
little.
those? Did you see it?
I would say I think that your building is significantly more attractive than another building that happens to be on Grand River.
Okay. Thank you.
I didn't say which one. No, there's another one that's not, and not nearly as pretty as that one.
And so this is the view from I-96, and because of the grade changes, you know, we wanted to screen it, you know, figured that was the best approach to kind of soften things up. So we've got pretty substantial screening along the I-96 side of the project. Is that it? All right. So, so as you can see, I mean, that's the project. It's a 505,000 square foot facility. The applicant has a consumer product, in this case, a water filtration system that we may not need here in the township, but other people certainly may, that they, you know, feel is going to be a successful product. And so this would be their flagship facility where they would assemble that product. So initially, it'll have one shift, we're assuming, at about 200 employees, and ultimately that may increase to 2 or 3 shifts. It's parked for 430 employees, so with shift changes and stuff, we're adequately parked. All the traffic impacts have been talked about previously, and we've agreed to make all the improvements that were recommended in that study. So, you know, the staff and consultants have been great to work with. We've had several kind of pre-application meetings with them, and so we're excited to kind of move forward with permitting and look at construction, hopefully later on, you know, this summer or fall. So with that, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, let's go ahead and open up any questions for the project.
Sure. I just have two questions. One, I know Brian had mentioned about the storing of chemicals. That's just janitorial supplies and whatnot. Is that?
Yeah, so in the conversation, the pre-application meetings, they said everybody has to store, you know, cleaning agents and maintenance supplies someplace, so why don't you just note that on the plan? So that's why we've got that there. The process itself and the assembly is just that, it's assembly. There won't be manufacturing anything, so we don't think there's any bulk chemicals used on the production side, I'll call it, but that's just maintenance and cleaning supplies, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's good that you're storing it over there, but, you know, I guess just to note that, you know, when those supplies are delivered and everything, if it's being delivered via truck, it is close to the wellhead protection area, but you're definitely outside of it. So if somebody does spill something as they're unloading it from a truck or something, you're outside of it, just so everybody knows. And the second question is, and I think that kind of your fly around kind of answers it, but because 96 is elevated and your building's down, all the mechanical equipment that's not on the roof, that is on the west
It's
side
all
of
on the
building?
ground. It's on the west side.
Okay.
Tori can show you where that's at. We got a green belt there. Yeah, those areas right there. So
Okay.
you see some arborvitaes are screening the transformer. We know that'll go there, and the extent of the mechanical equipment for cooling the plant, which it may or may not be cooled at this point, would go in that green belt area there, and we would just screen that further with additional landscaping or similar screening measures.
Okay, that's answers my question. Just so the view from 96 isn't your rooftop stuff. It's all on the ground.
Anything?
Planning Commission, though, had the same question that you did, twice, because we saw them twice about the cleaning products.
Okay.
Because how it was listed on their plans, so they assured us that it is cleaning products.
Okay, you heard some of the comments from our engineer and our planner. You
Sure.
can meet all that.
Oh, yeah, so if you want me to address those, yeah, I apologize, I had a letter here. So on the, you know, the management plan, we did submit an industrial activity statement with our site plan, and that outlines sort of the broad brushes of what we intend to do in the building. When we get into the building permit stage, as Brian mentioned, that's when we usually submit all the MSDS sheets, and for all, most of that, kind of the MSDS sheets and all of the parts and pieces that'll go interior to the building, on the production side, that's still being worked on. We've got the shell of the building designed, but the kind of production and equipment for the flow of the material, that's still being worked on. And that's the point when we submit for the building permit that we'll know all those details. And we're happy to sit down with the fire chief or fire marshal, whichever way it's set up, fire chief, to discuss any of those. And the operator of the plant is well-versed in those things. So that's item one. We talked about the chemical room. That was just to show where that was on the plans. And then number three, the requirements of the site plan approval must be met.
So you're good with
We'll
all
abide
that?
by all that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Michelle? Anything?
I'm fine.
John? Anything? Russ? Lise?
No.
Okay, that being said, a motion would be in order to move this forward or not. Anyone want to make that motion?
Is it first reading?
It is a first reading.
This is just a special
It's just a
meeting.
special meeting.
One time.
Yeah, just a
Oh, it's a one-time?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve AP-19-03B Hans Water and Power Special Land Use Review based on the site plan dated February 25th, 2019, which includes both the McKenna comments from March 28th, 2019, and CES letter dated March 26th.
I will second.
All right, we have a motion to approve and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
all right, we're moving on to the supervisor appointments of 3 DDA board members. And I'd like to reappoint the 3 board members tonight that have been there for quite some time, and they're doing a tremendous job, and they are working in a situation of all officers, which is pretty nice. The first one, and I think everyone knows everyone I'm going to talk about, is Tamara Ward from Abbey Park. She's our chair, and she does a fantastic job. So I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Tamara Ward to the DDA for 4 years with her commission up April 2023.
I'll support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to the next one is Robert Hendrick. He is the owner of Richard Tool and Die. He's done a really tremendous job as the secretary. I believe he's the secretary of the DDA. And he's done a wonderful job, and he enjoys it. He wants to run for the next 4 years as the DDA person. So I'd like to reappoint him to the DDA with the same commission up April 2023.
Support.
All right, we have a motion and support to reappoint Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and our third one is John Bell, who has been a really a good person on the DDA. Does a lot of work for the DDA. He's been on there for a little while, and I can't say enough about him. He's a real activist for the DDA, and I would like to reappoint him also for a commission ending April 2023.
Support.
All right, a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. We'll move on. All right, this next one is the introduction of ordinance amending Chapter 46. This basically is our own ordinances that we're putting together for cross-connection control. This is something we've taken over from the county. And Bob and Melanie's here tonight. Melanie, how you doing? And they've both been a big proponents of getting this thing put together. It was not easy, and I think they've got it put together. And if you have any questions for them, I would like to open up the floor. We can talk to Bob. You want to introduce us, Bob?
Yeah.
Melanie, you want to come on up?
I just made a few notes. And what we have in front of us is nothing more than an administrative approval. As you know, we took over the water department on June 1st of 2018. This program was in effect with the county, but we're adopting it to the township now. Ordinance 05-19 will amend the existing regulations and will adopt this ordinance so the Lyon Township Water Department Cross-Connection Control Program will take effect. This is done in accordance with the NDEQ regulations, which is part of the Safe Drinking Water Act 399, which was established in 1976. And the Cross Connection Program is there to help protect our community, the welfare of people drinking our drinking water, and just making sure that everything is safe. And Melanie has done a wonderful job on this.
You both have. It's really been a pleasure because it was a big undertaking,
Well, it is a
and
big undertaking.
and you've done a wonderful job.
Just one of those things you have to make sure your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted, things are in on time, and the reports are filled out exactly. And she does that. So, very, very proud.
We're very lucky.
Yeah.
Any questions for Bob? No? All right, well, a motion would be in order to go ahead and get this moving as a first reading.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 05-19 to second reading.
I support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Melanie, for coming. All right, moving on. Consideration and introduction of the proposed ordinance to amend Lyons Code of Ordinance, Chapter 42, Telecommunications, to change the title of 42 and add the new Article Wireless Facilities and Right-of-Way, and Article 5, Shared Public Right-of-Way and Construction Permits, to establish requirements, standards, regulations, and permits required for access to and use of public right-of-way for wireless facilities, and penalties and violations of the articles. Do you want to kind of put us in on this one, Carol, a little bit? I know, that's what I say when I read through this.
All right, I'll try to be sort of brief. This is a very complicated area of the law. Essentially, what happened is you had both the federal government and the FCC issuing rulings, and the state coming out with a statute, okay, to govern these new small wireless facilities. And those are the things that you see on the telephone poles and the light poles and things like that. That's the new technology, that's the way they're going. They're moving away from these huge cell towers, okay? And the industry is very powerful and has managed to convince both the federal and state government that they should be able to use our right-of-ways how they want, okay? The biggest problem is the statutes as they exist conflict with each other. For example, under the state statute, the maximum height is 40 feet plus an additional 5 feet for the antennas. Under federal law, the height is 50 feet or 10% of the height of the tallest structure, either that structure or the structure adjacent to it. Okay, so it could be much higher than 50 feet. There's differences in, they describe differently the amount of co-location allowed on each structure. They describe differently what powers the municipality might have. For example, under the state, you can't really adopt any regulations that would sort of unreasonably interfere or cause some economic problem for them to get this technology into place. But the federal law recognizes that you can have some aesthetic standards, okay? So what we have attempted to do here is take and draft an ordinance that tries to cover everything in both the statutes, realizing there are some inconsistencies and trying to acknowledge them at the same time, but also creating some aesthetic standards for you, okay? Bottom line is this, since there are conflicts, we're not gonna know how this plays out for some years, but it's our recommendation that we get something into place. And we have a couple experts in my office that work on this stuff. I tend to snooze through these parts of the seminars, to be honest with you, okay? This is really intricate stuff. And so this is what we're recommending to you. So we've tried to have some really comprehensive aesthetic standards in there that we hope will provide some limitations. For example, under the state statute, you can only impose some standards in a historic district or a downtown district, okay? Whereas the federal says, no, you can have aesthetic standards. So we've tried to come up with different things. The most important thing, and why this is coming to you also tonight, is the FCC passed an order, and when it was talking about a municipality's ability to have aesthetic standards, the order required that if you were going to have any, that the municipality would have to publish them by April 14th, 2019. okay? So the ordinance is before you tonight for first reading, but following on the agenda is a resolution that would adopt the aesthetic standards that will ultimately be contained in the ordinance, but we can take and publish that resolution to meet that deadline. So, like I said, very complex statutes, 165-page FCC orders, things of that nature, so that's sort of the overall explanation. One thing we have done in here is, because there is a conflict with the heights, the other thing is the amounts that you can get. Under state statute, you get $20 for co-location. Under the federal statute, you get $280. So one of the things that we've written in here, again, we don't know how it'll play out ultimately, is if you go with the 40 feet, then you pay your $20. But if you want to go higher, if you want to use the federal limits, then you'll pay the federal fees to us. So,
Well, I guess this is the start, right?
we've just got to get it started. We're watching it. We'll see what happens. There's already litigation. There's a number of lawsuits that have already been filed by ProTech and groups of that nature and municipalities, because you're talking about we have traditionally had the absolute power over our public right-of-ways. And this now takes that away from us.
Yeah, it takes it away.
Okay, so this is going to be litigated for some time.
I tried to read a little bit about it, and one of the questions that came up to me is they're talking about the poles and the location, how close together they can be, and then I'm thinking, I have no poles in my subdivision, as most new ones don't. How do they resolve that?
Well, one of the interesting things you see is we have in our aesthetics for residential areas, that you can't put them directly in front of a house, but absolutely. I mean, they can locate new poles. They have the ability to do that as well, but I think initially you're going to see them going through on the main areas, trying to locate on the existing poles, pretty much like cell towers, I think. They started out, then at some point there were holes they had to fill. So I think you're going to initially see them going through and putting them in the easy spots. But yeah, I don't, when you're talking about all underground utilities, then you're going to be looking to maybe put a new pole or, locate on a, business that has a light pole that's tall enough or whatever. So it's going to be something we're going to have to watch over time.
I think they've already been putting them in
You
here.
may have them. You
Yeah, we
may
do.
already have them.
I've seen them go up.
They've have put them up in a lot of communities without approval, and this ordinance would make them come in afterward and get a permit for what they've
Yep.
done, so,
That's why we need it.
yeah,
I think the $20 is ridiculous for the amount of money these companies charge you
yeah.
for a phone
yeah.
bill.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion and move this to second reading?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 06-19 to second reading.
I'll support.
Well, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're moving on to the resolution for the issue. We've already got the skinny on it, so anyone like to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2019-11, resolution establishing aesthetic, spacing, and undergrounding standards for wireless facilities and other infrastructure installations in public right-of-way.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And Michelle, you do have the notice I sent you. for-
Yes, and
okay.
that will go in, will go in for this Thursday for the following Thursday's
Okay,
paper.
perfect.
Do you want that on the website also right away
Yes.
tomorrow? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the 11 Mile Parkway. Consideration of award of contract for construction to the lowest bidder. This one here, we've talked this one over and over and over. And I think we have all the numbers on it. If you wanted to go over them again, but I think we have them. It was, I think the lowest bidder was 143.
Yes,
And
140,
then the
143,407 to Merlot Construction Company was the
And then
low
we
bidder.
also had the easement cost. And,
$42,002.
okay, so that's our numbers. I will tell you this, I talked to Sean today and asked him about this, and he said he's with the majority on how we want to move forward with this. I do believe that we do have money in the sidewalk fund, and I think you found that out today. It was a couple $100,000.
Yeah, we have 235,440 as of December 31st.
Okay.
Yep.
235,000.
440.
And I do believe that one of the things about this whole deal is if we get this constructed, I believe the grant will be much easier to get, right?
I think so. I mean, I'll defer to Brian on that, on how I would expect it to score higher, because you have the continual path from the Huron Valley Trail.
Yeah, I'd agree, and we've heard the same sentiment from the state.
It's okay. Well, I guess it's up to this board to make the decision if we want to move forward. So
I'd
I
like to
think we
make a
just do it.
motion to award a contract for the construction to the lowest bidder for the 11-mile pathway, as outlined in the CES letter, March 11, 2019.
I'll support. Do we need to say the $143,407?
I think I'd like to.
Will you amend your motion?
I will amend my motion to include that.
Now, that's the 143. You're going to have to put the easement in there also?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Is that something separate?
We have to include the
They're
purchase of
significant,
easements as
so-
well, correct?
Yes, I would.
Yes.
Can that be a separate motion, or you want it all together?
You could do a separate motion on it, but I think we need to cover it under this agenda item.
Okay, so
So
we
we'll
have,
first award, are we awarding the
Yes.
path
Yeah.
first? Okay, so Chris's motion, or I'm sorry, Lisa's motion is to award the path.
at the
Okay.
143 and whatever, okay. All right, so we have a motion and we do have a support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to the easement.
Make a-
What was the number on that?
$42,002.
$42,002.
I'll make a motion to approve the 11-mile pathway with the easement. Oh, gosh, I just lost the number. What's the number? $42,002,
Yes.
as outlined in the CES letter dated March 11, 2019.
I'll support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll get that pathway built.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on. Consideration to purchase the new server and host exchange from IT Right. And this is serious, folks, we need this. We are like out of everything, and we're on red lines right now, so if you take a look at this is a new server, and it comes out to $12,312, but we are in desperate need of this, and
We didn't budget for it.
we did not budget for this server. This came up. It's given us part of the problem is we're in the old Windows 7 era also, and they have to also update that. Yeah. This is really needed.
Well, when we were doing the budget, just so the board knows, we did speak to IT Right, and when we added all of the actual billing for the new water system, he told us we were right at our max, but he wasn't exactly sure, so probably our bad, we probably should have put it in the budget, but,
Yeah, we
it's a
didn't.
lot of numbers, and
We didn't
I
ask
don't know
for
how it kinda went over us, but it just did. But John's right, we really need it. And we can't be without our computers, so we'll have to amend our budget for that.
Does anyone have any problems with getting that new server?
Well, server's something you absolutely need.
We
so-
absolutely need it.
I think,
Would you like a motion? I'll make a motion to approve IT Right to approve the quote that they provided in the amount not to exceed $12,312.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to the presentation of a new website to get this thing launched.
Let me just get this to work. Okay, everyone. So first of all, I just wanted to bring to your attention the recap of Revise and all of the features that they had proposed that we would be utilizing here on our new website. So there's a couple of different components. The first one is the Citizens Communications Center, and it lists a variety of different features that we're going to be having on the site. Anything that I show tonight with a star means that that's a feature that cannot be utilized or touched or accessed until we go live. The check marks are the ones that tell you that we're utilizing them and they are being updated, content's being added, all of that. So just to recap, under Citizens Communication, we have a notification center with email alerts. That is tied in with the e-notify feature. So how that will work is once we go live, our citizens, anybody will be able to log onto our website, and we'll have pre-settings for folks to sign up either via their text or their email in order to get automatic notifications. So you would sign up with your email or your phone number to receive a text, and you would choose if you want to receive an update on the agenda for that evening, whether it's for the Planning Commission or the board or DDA. So that's a really important feature because we've had a lot of people saying, how do I know when something is coming up? How do I know when there's a special event? How do I know when there's a special meeting? We'll be able to turn on those features once we go live. We're also utilizing the News Center with Facebook Twitter integration. We'll be doing the Social Cloud app. Already we have online forms filled out. We are using a photo gallery. We have the quick link buttons working. The revised web calendar with unlimited features has been up and running. Sliding feature bar, and also a language translator. Some of the other features under citizens engagement is a citizen request center, an online bill pay, and the RSS feed. One of the nice features about Revise and this website is that it offers a mobile device features. Maybe you've gone to a website where you try to look at it on your phone and for some reason all of the content is off cue. That won't happen with our new website. Staff productivity apps, Image Manager, the intranet will be able, if there's any type of forms, once we have our employee handbook completed, we can put that on the intranet, making it accessible for employees to gain access. The job posting application is up and running. We have something called an iCal integration. That's just a special system that helps us to store the calendar information on the website. Link checker, menu manager, online web form builder. Once we go live, we'll be able to create more of those. Park reservation, staff directory, business directory, website content archiving, and website content scheduling. From a site administrator and security features, we will be able to have an audit trail. We're already doing a history log, the URL redirect setup, roles and permissions, security site gateway, unique login password for each of the content editors, which right now are myself and Catherine. We'll be able to run website statistics and analytics, and we'll be able to work with the departments on their workflow. Another thing I wanted to bring to your attention, this is an important feature that Revise offers and we will be utilizing, is our website will be ADA compliant. So just to recap that the ADA law doesn't specifically mention websites, but it has been recently interpreted by U.S. courts to apply to websites. So you might be saying, well, how does a website become ADA compliant? So an example of that is if you have a visually impaired person who's using special software on their computer, and they're interested in coming to our site, we need to be able to provide very detailed descriptions, especially in the captions of our photos. So if, for instance, they hover over this photo, it'll say, photo of people in a park. Go back. Photo of people in an open field in a park, water spraying, water tower in the background. So depending on the type of details in the picture, we'll try to do that as much as we can on the captions. So just to help you understand what Revise did for us is they basically packed up our house. Our old website, kind of look at it like a home. Went in, took all of our content, all of the images, everything, and moved it over to a new site. And what we've been doing over the past months is unpacking it. Basically tossing out things that we didn't think we needed anymore, consolidating information, adding new content, basically redecorating, having it get a new look, and just updating it with new and improved information. So I'm just going to do a quick recap of the old site. This is just an example of a page on the old site where along the left bar we had pretty non-descriptive information like resources. Well, what's resources? If you looked under resources, it had a variety of different items from all these different departments. It was really difficult to know exactly where to find the information that you were looking for. We had a navigation bar to the left, we had a navigation bar to the right or above. Another example was under departments. You would click on departments, but then you had to drill down to each one of these to try to find the information that you needed. And typically on a website, you don't want to do more than 3 clicks. And my favorite example is this is where we used to keep our newsletters, where if you wanted to view the newsletters, you would click and then scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll to find your information. So I'm going to show you how we've made updates to that. So this is a side-by-side comparison. This is our old homepage, and this is the new homepage. We have a photograph here of the Township Hall. This is a static image. It can be changed over time. We can make it so that it will go through some type of a gallery, if that's something that we'd like to do. But now what we've done is we've put all of our links very easy to find and very easy to read. So the first links that you see across the top are quick links that will take you to information that we think people would be looking for right away. Then we have the main navigation bar. And in the center, similar to what we had before, we have additional quick links that we think people might be able to access right away. So this is what the calendar would look like. You click on calendar and automatically opens up this interactive calendar that we mentioned before. If you were to click on this information, it also would open up details about the time and place and location of it, how often the folks meet. Under contact information, it gives all the information for the township, but it also provides a staff directory and then just general fill-in form if you have a general question. If you click on the Facebook link, it takes you to our Facebook page. More importantly, this video link, if you click on the video link, it will take you to the YouTube channel. And you can see here a listing of all of the meetings that take place. If you click on one of those, it'll pull up, for instance, the last meeting we had here, which was March 4th. So that's a new feature. It was before you just went to YouTube and then you had to look up the individual videos. Under announcements, now we list all of our announcements pretty straightforward. It's a running total, so if people want to go back and look at other announcements that were made, we have short-term announcements, which are notifications maybe about the water or inclement weather with the municipal building. And then we have long-term announcements, for instance, such as a peddler's permit or access to resolution or information. Under agendas and minutes, this has changed tremendously. So for those of us who work with the township and anyone who's logged into our previous website to look for agendas and minutes, we've now engaged the services of a company called Documents on Demand. And what they've done is they've taken all 6,000 of the documents that we had on our website and have moved it into a system that's easier to access and look at and view. Here's an example. If you were to click on Board of Trustees, you would click on agendas, and now all of our agendas are sorted by year. So you click on 2019, it will show you all the agendas for this year. If you click on 2018, it will show you all the agendas, and so on. Same would go for the Downtown Development Authority, Parks and Rec, Planning Commission. You're accessing a great deal of data. It's all in PDF format. The agendas are available, the minutes, and complete packets. Online Bill Center or Online Bill Pay is available as well. This takes you to a link where citizens can fill in their information to pay a water bill or to pay a sewer bill. If you click on Government now, it highlights a sub listing of all of our items that we want to highlight. An example is, we've never had this before. This is new content. It's about townships. So here folks can learn about the township government, how it works, how it operates, Before, we just had about the township as in where we're located and what our population is. We still have that, but we've decided to provide more detail here. Munitrix, if you click on Munitrix, it takes you to the Citizens Guide to Finances, which highlights all of the township information. You can see here too, you can click on meeting packets, board and commissions. We'll also bring up information about all of our board members. And I've done this pretty briefly because it's so extensive. I made this presentation to the DDA board and it took over 45 minutes. So I just wanted to highlight some key information. This is the staff directory. You can click on the staff directory, and what's really nice about this feature, and you'll see this throughout the presentation with other directories, is that you can sort the information. So if you wanted to sort it by department name, right now it's alphabetical, A through Z. If you click on that, it'll go Z through A. If you know the person's first name or their last name, then you can click on that to try to find the person that you're looking for. Or maybe you know they're in the building department, you can click there and it'll pull up their title. It has email and phone number for all of our staff. Also, here's the departments link. So you can see that we've listed all of the departments. It's a lot easier to view and see in this format. That was one click to departments, and then you click to the individual one, like the fire department. And then under fire department, instead of continuously clicking, all you have to do is look to the left, and we have very specific pages that are dedicated just to the fire department. So for instance, if you wanted to look up the burn application, it would pull up, or alarm system, sorry, it would pull up the alarm system information. If you wanted to look for reflective sign address information, it would pull up that information. So you're only 3 clicks away from getting to the information that you need. Same with water department. Now under water department, we've listed all the information that a water customer would want to see. One of the new things we added was private wells. That was something that we didn't have before. How to read your meter. So we've added a lot of new content that we think would be very helpful to the citizens. Instead of having that resource page, now what we have is a residence page. It's very clear and straightforward. Under residence page, if you want to learn about clubs and organization, community affairs, our senior center, the library, schools, roads, senior services, those are all, in fact, half of the items that you see up here are new pages that we created. Under clubs and organization, we've added all the clubs and organizations in the township, sorted by alphabetical order. Another new feature we added was a neighborhood list. So we have 90 developments listed. And what's nice about this feature, go back, previous. What's nice about this feature is we've also categorized each one of the neighborhoods. So whether they're a planned development or a single family residential, maybe it's an apartment complex, you can actually click on type and it'll list all of those by their category. And we also have links. If the HOA has a website, we included links to the website as well. Another department page right here is Parks and Recreation. You can see along the left side, it lists all of the different information that someone would want to know about Parks and Recreation. We've added a very extensive Township Road page that highlights everything that you can imagine about the roads, especially from the Road Commission. Another feature that was added is a Q&A. So this is a listing of about 20 questions that the Road Commission provides answers to that we think would be very helpful to the citizens. We added a senior services page to help folks if they're interested in learning more about meal assistance, medical screening, transportation, our community center, and then the CBDG funds that are available. Another issue that we have in the township is zip codes. So under residents, we've also added zip code information to help folks understand why we have multiple zip codes, and it includes a link to the map so that folks know where they live and what zip code they're in. Another feature that has been added to this website is How Do I? So How Do I is really going to be an ongoing list of questions just to make it very easy for folks to look information up on the website. Maybe it's how do I get a dog tag for my dog, or how do I pay my bills? How do I view a newsletter? Just another way for folks to be able to access that data. The next item is the downtown. So here we have a pretty extensive Downtown Development Association page. Many of the items that we added are in compliance with the new law that I mentioned earlier tonight for passing. It has our board of directors, mission statement. We've gone into great detail with transparency to explain the importance of tax increment financing and how DDAs are established. I've also started adding all of the available buildings and suites. If you look here, you'll be able to see the sales brochure. We don't want to duplicate what our sales and brokers are already putting out there, but we do want to list who the brokers are and what type of space is available and where it's located, and how to contact the person to learn more about those. Same with availability of vacant parcels. So we have the sales flyer, and then the broker listed, the acreage, and the location. We also offer the maps that are associated with the DDA, and more importantly too, the financial information. So here we were able to list all of the audits and the budgets. Under the business title, we're talking about economic development. So this really is a page that can be used for developers in particular. If they're looking for information such as one-stop shop, one-stop ready, our ribbon cutting ceremonies are in here. We have a photo gallery. The business directory is listed here. Anything that anybody interested in wanting to open a business in the township, they can get that information on this page. Here's an example of the business directory. So the business directory is designed also to be sorted alphabetically. You can also sort it by address. Maybe you know that it's on Haas Road, but you're not quite sure exactly what the name of the company was. You can look it up by address. I like the category. It lists all of the golf courses, greenhouses, grocery stores, hair salons. And we also have it sorted by shopping center. So maybe you know that it's Big B Coffee and it's in the Lion Oaks Plaza, and there's a business right next door to Big B where you're not quite sure. You can look it up by shopping center sort. And same with the downtown. So some of the examples for geographic location is the 10-mile corridor, the Southwest Business Corridor, which would be down by 8 and 9 Mile Road, Griswold Business Corridor, Milford Corridor, North Pontiac Trail. So we try to be very descriptive here. So what are the next steps? So obviously the website will always be a work in progress, but this week we are looking to go live on Friday, April 5th. Catherine and I are working with Revise on getting all of our URLs redirected. So how that works is not only do we have a main URL, which is liontownship.org, but there's also other links that we have that we need to realign to make sure that when we go live, we don't lose those links. We'll be adding more photos. We'll continue to add more photos to the site and providing those detailed descriptions. And I'll be sending a link to all of you tomorrow so you can play around with it, get to know it. We'll be able to take any feedback that you have as well. And I'll be doing round 2 training this week with our clerk and deputy clerk. We've already been through training on how to load the packets and information, but we just want to do another reminder on how we're going to complete that. And also transitioning, turning on all the features that had stars in front of them, and then just working out the kinks. But we're very excited, and I can tell you it's a lot of work that's been done, but it was so much easier to do. Logging in, accessing the different pages, adding photographs, adding content was so much easier than it was before.
I think you've done a tremendous job. I think that is a crazy nice website. And I think you've got a lot of information put in there. What a great job you've done. I know it was a big job.
And myself and Catherine, too.
Catherine also.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really appreciate it.
And I'd like to thank all the department heads, too.
Right, and we gotta work on that. Absolutely, I agree. You know, Tina's been doing it in her spare time, which is not really that spare.
I would like to thank John Hicks for championing a champion for this, and also for all the department heads working with me to try to get content and information in there. We didn't even have an attorney page before, but now we do. The same with engineering. We've worked really hard on the engineering page. Before it was, everything was under the building department. That doesn't always make sense. In our pre-application meetings, oftentimes we have engineers asking for information before they even go to the building department. So now we can send them to the engineering page where all the benchmarks are loaded in, all of the applications, everything's readily available. So I'm excited.
I am too. I think it's wonderful. Any questions for Tina? Anybody have anything they want to add to this?
No, I think John just mentioned it, just keeping up on it. Once it's all up and established, just keeping it up to date, because with all that new information, it's going to be a lot of, I guess,
Well-
work to keep the business listings up to date, and then available properties and stuff too. So.
Well, and that's part, what's exciting for me is that's something I've always wanted to do. It's part of my job for the township, being an economic developer and DDA manager, is to keep that information current. But now I have a place to put it. Before it was just my eyes only. Now it can be for everyone to see. But the audit feature of the website should help with that. We can do a search on an audit to see when was the content last added. And so once a year or every 6 months, we'll be able to log in and say, this page hasn't been updated in a while. It's time to do an update. And then we can sit down with the department head and then look at that. The fire pages are pretty extensive. I think we may want to add Mary as an editor to help edit those pages, because they're just very detailed information that I think the public would want to know, but it needs to be hands-on managed more. Over 4,000 people like the township Facebook page, so that gives you an idea on how many folks are engaged with the fire department.
Great, Tina. I can't believe how great that is.
Yay.
And April 5th is a good date. I like that.
Yeah. I didn't want to do it on April 1st. People might not have taken me as seriously.
All right. No one have any questions for Tina?
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you for approving it.
All right, then I guess,
Friday's firm now.
Yeah.
I guess a motion to adjourn is next.
I'll make that motion.
I will second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.